Hello, today is October 28th, and our gospel today is John chapter 8, verses 31 through 36. Jesus said to the Jews who had believed in him, "If you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free." They answered him, "We are descendants of Abraham and have never been slaves to anyone. What do you mean by saying you will be made free?" Jesus answered them, "Very truly I tell you, everyone who commits sin is a slave to sin. The slave does not have a permanent place in the household. The Son has a place there forever. So if the Son makes you free, you will be free indeed." This gospel from John chapter 8, fairly early in the book of, or middling in the book of John, is a central text and is, in fact, the text that gets picked every Reformation Sunday, which is what this Sunday is, usually the end of October. And this year falls on the 31st, on Halloween. And this Reformation Sunday text is chosen for its theme of freedom, for the message that we, through Jesus, have become free, have become truly free. And not only have we been freed from something, but we have also been freed for something. When Jesus tells the crowd, the people who he's talking to, those who had believed in him, "If you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free," they're confused. They're like, "Well, we've never been slaves. We're descendants of Abraham. What are you talking about? We are free. We are a free people." And Jesus says, "No. If anyone has committed sin, anyone who has sin in their life is a slave to their sin, is a slave to whatever pet sin they might have, whether that is prejudice or material obsession or anything that separates you from God or separates you from another human being. That is a definition of sin. Sin is that which creates a gulf between us and God and creates a gulf between us and one another. That is what sin does. And when we commit sin, and we all do, I do, you do, everyone does. This is the testament, this is a witness of Scripture and the witness of your life, of your reality. Life is broken out there. There's a lot of bad things out there. And Jesus is saying this is a result of everyone having become enslaved to sin. That's a really powerful analogy. Slavery, even in the ancient world, where it wasn't as much about race or chattel slavery as it became in the 18th and 19th centuries here in America and elsewhere in the world. Even in the ancient world, slavery is a terrible state to be in. You are you do not have control over your own body and what you can do with it. And Jesus is saying everyone who commits sin does not have control over themselves. They are unable to reconcile with God. They are unable to reconcile with other people. And this is what Jesus says: the slave does not have a permanent place in the household. The Son has a place there forever. So we are being freed from the bondage to slavery, or the bondage to sin, excuse me. So that bondage is being taken away in Jesus, but we are freed for something. We are freed to have a permanent place in the household. So if the Son makes you free, you'll be free indeed. We are, instead of becoming slaves, we have become children. We have been freed in order to become children in the household with Christ, adopted siblings of Christ. Christ, the Son of God, has made it so that we have all as a group become adopted into God's household. And what does that mean? What does it mean to be freed for something? We are freed with a purpose. As the church on earth, the household of God here walking out on the streets, we have been freed to communicate, to tell people that they have been freed for the same purpose, and that they don't need to be slaves to those old patterns, those old chains that have bound them. We have been freed from fear, and so we are freed for courage. We are freed for compassion. We are freed to take care of one another. We are free to take stands, risky stands, when there's something that is wrong in the world that ought to be set right. We are freed to live Christian lives boldly without shame. This is a strong message of identity, and it is a strong message about who we are going to be. That we are being sent forward with a mission. This is not only about who we are as Christians, but it is a rallying cry and a motto. That we have been made free, and free indeed. We read this text on Reformation Sunday not to celebrate the religious wars that were fought in the centuries after the Reformation. None of those wars were fought for any particularly good reason. Instead, we celebrate the freedom that the Protestant Reformation brought into a church that was staggering under the weight of corruption, that was staggering under the weight of traditions that had become rules that had obscured the gospel message behind. We are heirs to a Reformation that, for all its flaws, for all of the problems that it created in the European world and then in the world as a whole, we are heirs to a Reformation that saw freedom and who saw the gospel as something freeing and not force people to submit to the will of the church. We see our role as people who have been freed and who are encouraging others to seek freedom, not to chain others with coercion or any other sort of violence. That's the promise of the Reformation. And as much as the Reformation at times failed, that is the vision of what it wanted to do. We are descendants of Abraham and have never been slaves to anyone. But Jesus assures us, you are slaves now to sin, and you are simultaneously adopted children of God. In the resurrection to come, that old identity will be taken away, and you will simply be a member of the household. That's a beautiful picture. All right. I hope you have a good week. Bye-bye.